Welcome to Sormag's Writers Cafe, where we share the real writer's life over a cup of friendship, sprinkled with laughter and wisdom. My name is LaShonda Hoffman, and I am your host today. Today's show is sponsored by Virtual Tea with LaShonda. In today's episode, we're talking about the writer's mindset. Our guest today is Necie Black and Necie Lockley. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
All right. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin? We'll start with Necie.
Absolutely. I'm Necie Black. I am a coach, a speaker, and an author. My very first book published this year, Self-Approved, deals with validating ourselves as women and making sure that we are doing what we can to build our confidence and to go after and create the lifestyle that we want. I am in the Oklahoma City area. Shout out to the OKC Thunder. And I serve the community as a board member of Dress for Success Oklahoma City. I have been in my business for just about almost 4 years, and I left corporate America to start my business back in 2013. So, yeah, that's about 4 years. But it has been tremendous, meeting new people, connecting with other like-minded women, supporting the community, and not just that, but helping other aspiring authors get their voices out there, get their publications, their stories told, and being able to coach them through that process too.
All right. Thank you. Necie?
Yes, hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you, LaShonda, for having me back again. I am Necie Lockley, the award-winning author of 4 books, 3 fiction and 1 nonfiction. I am also the passion and purpose pusher, and so I work with Christian women who need to transform their thinking to move from stagnation to implementation. And I am so excited to be here tonight and talk about writing and the mindset of writers. The work that we do is so important, and it takes a lot of our mind. So I'm so excited to be, have this opportunity to discuss this issue that I think we don't discuss enough. And since we're shouting out cities, Harlem is in the building, okay?
Hey! Yeah.
All right. Well, I shout out St. Louis. We in the building too. Hey. The mindset has been a very hot topic for me personally, and I wanted to talk about that because when I put my book out, I learned a lot about fear and different things that go with fear. And whenever I looked up information on fear, the word mindset kept coming up. And I was like, ooh, mindset. And so when I started doing my promotion stuff, I realized that you had to have a promotion mindset. And then you have to have a business mindset. And you have to have a financial mindset. And then and I thought about it. I said, all this goes together. You have to have a writer's mindset before you can get to the promotion mindset. And so I wanted to talk about the writer's mindset because we don't really think about that when we start writing. We just start writing. And most writers are what they call it, introverts, I guess. We're to ourselves. We do our little thing. And a lot that I've interviewed say that they're shy. They're very shy. For me, my writing was secretive. Nobody really knew I wrote. I never talked about it. I did the magazine, so people always go, "You write a book? You writing, LaShonda?" I write, but the fear had me a lot, so I didn't tell people about it because I was like, well, I got a magazine. If they knew about my book, they gonna rip it to shreds. And so that kept me from putting my stuff out for a while. So I want to talk to you ladies because I know you all have positive attitudes. And I want to know, what do you believe is a writer's mindset? Let's start with you, Necie.
A writer's mindset, well, you know what I like to say? A writer's mindset, are we talking about a healthy writer's mindset, or are we talking about a defeatist writer's mindset? Because a lot of times what I see being promoted is a very defeatist attitude about writing. My writing is not good. This is going to happen. What if they reject me? What if they? But that is not, in my opinion, the real and ultimate heart and core of what a writer's mindset is. That's not the mindset I imagine Shakespeare had. That's not the mindset of Toni Morrison, who said, I know what I want to read, and it was missing, so I wrote it.
I want to talk about the good mindset, because we already at the – I know I've lived the bad mindset. So I know there's some people out there who have that mindset that this is it, this is the type of book I'm going to write, and it's going to sell. You know, and I think that a lot of people, like with me, if you've been doing it over 20 years and you haven't had that sale, or you haven't did the indie publishing, your mindset gets chumped on a lot. It gets tore up, it gets shredded to you almost are defeated. You're at that and when people come to me with the promotion, they're at that stage of defeat. I'm done. This is my last choice. So tonight I want to talk about how we can get back up to the positive mindset. So how we get back up to I believe in what I'm writing, and that there are readers out there that want my book.
Absolutely. That's what needs to be discussed. And one thing that really helped me, and I'm glad that I heard it quite possibly before I really launched into this leg. I mean, my writing has taken on different versions of itself throughout the years of my life. But one thing that really helped me in creating a mindset was, one, I met an author, and she was a poet. And when I met her, she was being celebrated for being published and obtaining this new position at a college. And I went there to interview her while I was in college. And I said, what advice would you give? And she said, well, you know what? If it's for you, no matter how old you are, whether you're 8 years old or 86 years old, it's going to happen unless you give up. And so a lot of times we place our success in the hands of other people as if they have power over the trajectory of our lives, when realistically we have the power over the trajectory of our lives. And so how fiercely we get behind our projects is really going to determine the outcome. And so sometimes we do a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there, and get upset when we have a little here and there results, when in reality we didn't put ourselves behind it full throttle, full thrust, pedal to the metal in a sense. You know what I mean? That really helped me a lot. And I think also what would be helpful in honing a writer's mindset is, one, acknowledging the fact that you are writing, so therefore you are a writer. Not being published or not having your book bought, or all of these different scenarios we make up to validate our craft. That's not what makes you a writer. The pen to the page is what makes you a writer. When your book comes out, that makes you a published author. And then sales, that's about, then you have to change your mindset, and you have to come out of being a writer and go into, as you said, that promotion, that business, and that finance mindset, which we don't always learn as authors to distinguish or separate, and how to shift and change gears.
That is so true. That is so true. And I think that we as writers want that validation. I know I did for a long time, and that stopped me in my tracks. I didn't believe that I didn't need the validation to be a published writer. As you say, I was a writer. I've been a writer since I was probably could write. And so, but I thought I needed that validation. I thought I needed that big publisher to say, "Hey, we want your book. Hey, we want to put you under contract." And when it happened, it was exciting. Yes, it was exciting, but I was like, but it didn't really make a big deal, you know. And I was like, you've been waiting on this for 20, and it was more exciting putting your own stuff out. You know, I was excited that the person wanted my book, and then it hit me, and I was like, oh wow, somebody wanted my book, and then I was like, okay, but I didn't win millions of dollars, so what was the point? You know, you still published. So I think a lot of people get so stuck in that validation that they don't hear anything else. They don't see anything else. And then they're waiting. And sometimes it might not never happen. I know many writers who've been waiting as long as I have, 20-some years. And they're like, I'm still waiting on the publishers. When right now the publishers are slowing down. They're not even asking for books anymore. You know, so what happens then when the publishers say close their doors to you? What happens then? You know.
Well, you have to be, I think, in the process of one thing we need to maintain is being able to continue to work while you wait, but also recognizing the power of creating your own opportunities, because a lot of the authors who we love and who we celebrate, many of them started out self-published before a publisher really invested in them and picked them up. And so if we really looked at that and examined and considered and recognized that sometimes you have to just put yourself out there in order for people to see you and not just keep sending stuff. If you're sending it to them, you're sending it to them because on some level you believe that it's good. It's good. It should be published. It should be out there. And so instead of saying, hey, hi, I'm waiting for you to second my motion that I'm good, no, I'm going to show you that I'm good and you can jump on the bandwagon.
That's a good lesson. I had to do that one, but I think also it comes back to that mindset, the fear that you will be rejected by not only the publishers but the readers. You know, you feel like if you don't have a publisher, then the readers are not going to look at you. That's how a lot of people felt. I felt that way for years, you know, that the readers are not going to look at me because I'm not a published author, you know, and so with a publisher, put it that way. But like you said, but if you're out there making a name for yourself, people know who you are. So when you do put a book out, you're not just, you know, somebody just came on the scene. People say, oh, I've been to different events she's been at. She's taught classes. She's been in workshops. You know, she's been on summits. She's not just somebody who just popped up out of nowhere. You know, so you're building. As I tell my clients, you're building relationships. So people will know that, okay. You know, I get a lot of clients that come to me. Nobody knows who they are. They don't even know the book is on Amazon. You know, and so you have to build the relationship so they can come and find you or buy your book. You know, if you do decide to go past the publisher to do it yourself.
That is absolutely true. That is totally true. I did not even think about starting with a publisher. I self-published, and it was because when I first entered the writing scene, all of the other authors that I worked with on anthologies, on their individual projects, they were self-publishing. It wasn't until later did I find out, you know, what going through a publisher might mean for my book, but I was already, you know, this is my baby. I am seeing it from start to finish. I am going to self-publish. I've got my Ingram Spark. I've got my Create Space, and I'm going to do this and this and this and this. So I already understood that going in, that it was my responsibility to promote and market myself, to have an action plan, a promotional marketing plan that would generate interest in advance of the publication date. So I think when we start talking about moving from, you know, being just writing maybe our memoir or in our journal to actually becoming a published author, we got to take those things into consideration in advance. A lot of times, I think people really underestimate the reason that they're writing. Some people will say, I'm just writing it so that I can help somebody, so that, people will know that if I made it through, they can make it through. I said, okay, well, do you want to sell any books? Well, yeah, I want to sell any books. Do you want to make any money? Well, yeah, I want to make any money. Well, how much? Gauge in advance what the purpose and intent is of that book, and that will help determine how far you're willing to go to promote it, whether or not you're going to hand it out from the trunk of your car, whether or not you're just going to gift it to everybody, or whether or not you're going to be vested in making sure that people know who you are, that it's out there, it's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble, and it is accessible and that you are accessible. And I think that will take away some of the fear about becoming a published author and give them a little bit more fire and intention in the direction that they go. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it makes complete sense. Oh, my gosh, I love that. And that's one of the things when I work with authors, that there are two questions I ask them. What do you want your book to do for you? What do you want it to do for your readers? And the conversation turns into something else, because there's some other thing that happens to us also as authors, which is this whole idea that we need to be writing these books for noble reasons, and you're not allowed to say that you want to get paid because you wrote this book. And when we don't say that, that kind of like messes everything up in a way, because then you don't promote and you stay living in this space that nobody's going to receive it, and because nobody's going to receive it because you're saying to yourself already when you start out that this is just a helpful guide. And if it's a helpful guide, then you can hand it out on the corner. Like you said, are you going to give it out of your truck, or what are you going to do? And that is part of the process of thinking about what are your goals for your book, really. What do you really want to do with this book? What do you want to see happen with this book and see happen to you after you write this book? What do you want to see happen? And when we start embracing our goals, the fear starts to slip away and get like a lot smaller and a lot quieter when we start being really realistic about what we want, as opposed to what are acceptable answers and responses for people.
Yes, you are absolutely right. We've got to be honest and truthful about what it is that we want from this project, from this book. And if you're starting your business or been in business, what is your expectation for this book? Is it going to catapult you into more speaking engagements? Because if people read your story, then they're going to want you to talk about it. They're going to invite you into, their place of business, their church, their school, their women's retreat, their whatever, so that you can share what your book is about, how you are, and it just goes on from there. So we got to be realistic and truthful and not be sugarcoating it and all of these pie-in-the-sky ideas when that's not really what it is that we want. We're afraid to say, I want to make some money off this book, or I want notoriety from this book. I want people to know who I am from this book. Just be real with yourself and say, I want to do both, or I want to do all, or I just want to make money. And then I think that will help, hone who your message is going to be deliverable to, and whether or not you'll be able to capitalize on it personally, not just, the book sales, but personally. Because I know that writing, from my standpoint, man, I said I wanted to write when I started writing, but it was a lot of work looking at myself in the mirror and uncovering some of those things that I had forgotten about. And it was, some healing process that took place during my writing. And I've got to be open to that transformation that happened as I was going through that process. And I think it made me a much better author and a much better speaker, going through that process and understanding that, okay, my book is for a specific person, not for everybody. Not everybody's going to get it, but I have an idea of who this person is that I'm speaking to through the words in my book. And I want them to know thus, thus, and thus. And I want them to feel thus, thus, and thus. And I want to, empower them to do X, Y, and Z, and so forth. So all of that kind of came along as I was writing and got a little, come to Jesus meeting with myself and got real about what it is I want my book to do and how I wanted it to impact,
Yes, and there's something brilliant that you said in understanding that your book is not for everybody, and to develop a writer's mindset and be okay with what you're working on and go, oh, this is too far-fetched. Oh, this is too wild. This is too, nobody will receive it. This is too, get out of that and be okay and go, my book is not for everyone, and that's okay. Stephen King, everybody does not love Stephen King. Stephen King is still rich nonetheless. James Patterson, everybody does not love what James Patterson does, but he's still rich nonetheless. Everybody does not love Iyanla Vanzant, but she's still like helping you fix your life. Mm-hmm. You are for someone. You may not be for everyone. And when you take that out of your mind, we want to be for everybody, and we think the only way we're going to make it is if we're for everyone.
Yeah, and
that's not
too much of a burden. Yeah, it's not, and it's too much weight trying to appeal to everybody. When we just stay in our lane and we stay with what it is that we know for sure that is being birthed in us, and be true to that. Some people will get it, some people won't, and we got to be okay with both. And then be available for those who get it, for those who we connect with. That is our true audience. And once we connect with our true audience, we can help them go so much farther, because we're not trying to spread our pearls across the country when we really should be just focusing on this group of individual with these pain points that our book is intended to serve.
Exactly.
Oh, these are some good nuggets here, good nuggets. I hope people are listening in, because when people come to me, the first thing is they say to me is their book is for everyone.
Oh. It's like, oh, bless your heart. Come here and let me set you straight.
Yes, like, okay, that's where you start selling books, because you think it's for everyone. And you have to step back and acknowledge that it's not for everyone. And don't be upset about that when the person tells you that. A lot of people will not admit that their book isn't for everyone, and they have a hard time selling. And then they wonder they don't know who their audience is, because they can't get in front of anybody because it's for everybody. You can't get in front of everybody. That's the hardest part. I tell people, if you're not going to be on social media, then you got to be offline. So where are you going to go offline if you think it's for everybody? Where are you going?
I know. Yeah.
And that's
they're going everywhere. They're going to the nursing home and the elementary school.
Oh boy, that's two extremes right there.
Right, but that's what happens when you say it's for everyone. And I think sometimes what people mix up and what people don't understand or recognize, and I became aware of this because I used to teach. And so as I spoke to some of the authors who I would work with when I coached them, and they say, oh, my book is for everyone. Anyone can read it. And yes, anyone might be capable of reading it. You're right. My 8-year-old daughter may have the vocabulary to read your book, but are the concepts in your book for her? My 86-year-old grandmother may have the vocabulary to read your book, but are the concepts in your book for her? Is she going to be entertained? If you write fiction, is she going to be entertained by that? Or are your references too common, too colloquial, too connected to modern vernacular for her to know what the heck you're talking about? See, the book's not for her.
Excellent. Excellent. Your audience has got to be able to identify with you.
Yes,
and connect with that book. Yeah. Excellent.
So how do you change your mindset? How do you get to this good mindset and get away from this defeating mindset?
You are what you eat. What you consume is what is going to come out of you. It's going to harbor in you first, but then that's going to be what you reproduce. So, one, stop taking in a lot of negativity. If your social media feed is full of woe as me authors who keep talking about how they can't make a sale, or who keep putting up posts, those memes of, when I look at my writing, I want to barf, stop consuming that, because now you're thinking that when you look at your writing, you should barf too. And you're thinking something's wrong with you because you enjoyed the sentence you just wrote, when everybody else is saying, when I read my writing, it sounds terrible in my head. That stop consuming their negativity, because it's breeding in you and you are reproducing it, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. Stop reading those articles that say that the book market is dead. When you pick up Publishers Weekly and you see each publishing house report their sales and they're in the millions, it's not dead. You didn't find the living source for yourself yet. You better speak to them dry bones and tell them to live, because you're getting two different ideas that are going on, and you are consuming the wrong idea. If you're going to start changing your mindset, you've got to start making changes in the patterns and in the things that you consume and in the people you surround yourself with. And if you know that you are not strong enough to talk back to people, then get away from those people who tell you negative things. I've had people, when I did my first book, I had someone say to me, I don't know why you're working this hard. You are not going to go anywhere with this book. And I was staying up night after night, staying up until 4 a.m., have to get up and go to work at 6 a.m., and I'm trying to type and get this thing ready, and you're not going anywhere. I don't know why you're working this hard. That book won the Phyllis Wheatley Award for First Fiction. But all I had to do to say to them was, you don't believe in me, and you don't believe in my God? Oh my God. But that was in me already. I could say that. If you know you can't talk back like that, get away from them. Get away from the people who like to sow seeds of doubt in your garden, because that's what's growing. You got to move.
I love that.
I do too. I do love that.
I'd like to add something, if I may. In addition to, stop comparing yourself and your writing to that of others. Stop looking at other people's published authors' celebrations, wins, and then comparing that, well, I should be farther along, and I'm going to write just like them, and I'm going to do you. Be true to you. If you're not a fiction writer, if you are a fiction writer, if you are a self-help writer, whatever type of writer is in your heart to do, write that. Don't try and jump on the bandwagon of what's popular, because it may be inauthentic, and that will come across in your writing. So be true to the genre that's in your heart, the word that's in your heart, the stories that you want to tell. If it's self-help, then do that. But we get a little bit wishy-washy. We run over here and we try to jump on, this is popular right now, I'm going to do that, and then give it a month. Then now this is popular, I want to go do that. No, we've got to stop comparing not just our lives, not just, the words, but our writing, our style. Stop comparing it, because it's just, we're cutting off our legs before we even get to stand up when we do that, because we feel like we've got to be like so-and-so in order for our book to be successful. I've got to do it like this. It's got to look like this and word it like this, and I can't, and that is really our own self-defeating, limiting thoughts and beliefs. We got to stand up and be true to what is in our space, our life, our heart to write, and go with that. And God is going to bless who you are. He's not going to bless what you're trying to duplicate from somebody else's life. He gave you your unique style. So I can't go be Oprah, because I'm not Oprah. I have to be me, and I have to write the best me in my space that I can. I can't go duplicate what somebody else is trying to do. I don't believe God blesses that. He blesses the gifts he gave me. So I have to use that in order to, to be successful in anything. I want to, not just in writing, but in anything. So when I start comparing myself to others, then it's like I don't appreciate what God has given me. How dare I? How dare me?
That is so true. And I love that. And I love that you said that. I mean, I've discussed that a few times. And I met a woman at a book event I was doing, and it was about health and wellness. And she started talking to me about why she wasn't writing. And she was like, she was not writing because every time she looked at a book by Chimamanda or a book by Tony or a book by some other author, she's like, I'm not as good as them.
Wow.
So that's why I don't write. And I said, but what if you don't know how good you are if you haven't put your work out? What if you're better than them? You're right. You might not be as good as them. You might be better.
Better, yes. Yes.
And you are limiting yourself because that is what you have created as your standard, and you're saying you might not be as good as them. You're right. You might not be. You might be better.
Yeah.
You might very well be better, and be realistic about the standards that you set for yourself, because there is very much a difference between how you're going to write if you're training yourself versus how someone else is going to write who has gone to several universities. There may be a difference in what's going to come out of you, and you may write something that is very, very earthy and very real and very raw, and you don't have the same polish, so you think it's not as good as someone else. No, you have two different tools, so you're going to build your house differently. Honor the tools that you have and use them to the best of your abilities. And that has to become a change to change your mindset. You have to look at your tools. This is what I have. What kind of house can I build with this?
Absolutely.
Instead of saying I'm not building a house.
Very good.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think that you drive yourself crazy when you spend all your time trying to compare yourself to other people. When you write a book, especially if you're doing a nonfiction book, and you hear all these people talking about making six figures with their book, and they're going here and they're doing this, and you're sitting at home going, I sold 2 books today.
2. I know, right?
Why am I not on the New York best-selling list? And you're driving yourself crazy comparing yourself to someone else when, and like you said, it's a blessing to write a book and to publish it. Do you know how many people want to write a book, but it never happens? When I think about how long it took me to complete the book and publish it, I want to shout because I know where I came from, how long it took me, how long I had to get my mindset right to know that I can do this. And there's a lot of people who will never do it because their mindset isn't right, because they, like you said, they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they're good enough to do this. And it's heartbreaking because it's so many people worried about what somebody else's has. I tell my clients all the time, change your Facebook feed. I get on Facebook for fun. I'm not getting on there to be getting negative stuff, nasty stuff. I've had a client, I had to tell her, stop putting on there you're not selling books. Don't nobody want to hear that.
Boy. Yes.
Hey, if I sell one book, hey, I sold a book. That's going to encourage somebody else versus I ain't selling nothing this week. Nobody hitting the PayPal button. Who wants to hear that? Nobody does, especially if you're trying to finish the book for the first time and you're thinking, oh, man, if she's not selling it, she got 4 or 5 books. What my little measly book going to do? You have to keep that mindset. I'm always posting positive things, and I know that probably drives some people crazy, but I'm talking to myself because I'm like, work on your dream today, LaShonda. Believe, get fear out of your house, kick it to the curb, because I have to uplift myself. If I can't uplift me, nobody else is going to do that.
That's true.
And so I had to change my mindset to believe that I deserve this. This is what God put in my heart. I'm going to do it. But a lot of people aren't at that stage. And so that's why we're having this talk, because I want to get them to that stage of changing your mindset and believing in yourself. All right, we're going to take a short break for our sponsor, Virtual Tea with LaShonda. Change the way you think about promotion. It doesn't have to be hard. You can find time to promote. You can be consistent with your promotion. You don't have to do it alone. Do you find when it comes to your promotion, you have all these great ideas but never implement them? The Social Butterfly Master Call will help you start implementing your ideas so you can start being consistent with your promotion. Are you ready to join the Social Butterfly movement? Check the show notes for more information. Virtual Tea with LaShonda, promotion strategy sessions to help you become the social butterfly you were meant to be. All right, welcome back to the Sormag's Writers Cafe. I'm LaShonda Hoffman, your host today. We are discussing the writer's mindset with Necie Black and Necie Lockley, and these ladies have been giving us some great wisdom on how to change our mindset and getting us back on track. Okay, let's ask this question. How did you get past the Sox Self-Doubt and the Imposter Syndrome?
Oh, wow. I just recently did a whole discussion on dealing with the Imposter Syndrome. And part of that imposter syndrome, and part of that goes back to before we went on break, LaShonda, you said something so powerful that a lot of us take for granted and we do not say to ourselves. It hasn't been instilled in us from being young people. I deserve this. Part of dealing with that imposter syndrome is people are going to find out I'm a fraud. I'm not as good as they think I am. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve what's happening to me. I don't deserve it. And we have been taught that. And it's been instilled in us either because of, rocky backgrounds, crazy childhoods, different people we've surrounded ourselves with, being around people who don't understand your gifting. All of these things start to seep into you and into your mind, and you start to say, I don't deserve this. I'm not really supposed to be here. I'm not really supposed to be having this success. And it becomes a block for yourself, and you have to be able to say, I do deserve this. I do belong here. I've been writing. When people ask you, how long have you been writing? And you're like, I'm new because my book just came out. You're not new. If you've been writing in your journal since you were 8 years old and now you are 48, you're not new. I've been writing for 40 years. I belong here. Do not discredit any single piece of experience that you have.
Absolutely.
I was at that point, Nigeria, just what you said, because this is my first book, but I have been writing since I was 16, so about 40-some years of writing. But when as a new writer, you have in your head that it's your first book, but I've been writing articles, I've been doing blog posts, I've been doing conferences, I've done workshops, and sometimes people try to make you forget that you have all that experience in you, but this is just your first book, so you have to put it in your head that, hey, I like you said, I deserve this. I feel like people think I'm fake. And this is stuff that goes in your head. You're thinking, people think I'm fake. People, well, how can you talk about promotion? Well, I've got a magazine I've been doing for 20 years, so I know a little bit about promotion, and then they go, but people will try to discredit you because of their mindset, and so you definitely have to keep your positive mindset because people will try to discredit you. I've seen people do it to other people, and you're going, really? You have, wow. So you definitely have to keep your mindset fresh because people will try to discredit this. If you got one book and that's all you have is one book, so like I said, there's a whole bunch of other people out there that don't have. I should tell
a book.
And she goes, I just have one book, and that's it. I said, do you know how many years I've dreamed of having one book with my name on it? I said, I can die tomorrow and be happy because there's a book that says LaShonda C. Hoffman. How many years it took me to get to that? You know, and I told her, if you got one reader, you still above me because I don't have a reader. I don't have a book. Be thankful for you got to that point, you know, and you wrote a book. Do you know how many people talk about how I did it for years? I'm writing a book and never wrote it, you know. So you have to think about, you can tear your own self down thinking because you just got one book. So
that's true.
You have one book. I met an author, she had one romance book. That's all she wrote. And you better believe that book's still selling. She goes to conferences. She goes to workshops. With that, she said she was writing another book. That was her book. It was like 500 pages, so I understand. But she said, I'm not writing another book. As long as this book sells, I can get out here and promote it. Hey, it's one book. But she's still making money off of it. So don't discount your one book because it can take you to all kinds of different things. So that one book can change your life.
Yes, yes.
Oh, man, I got past. I was supposed to be asking a question. My biggest issue is fear. I deal with fear a lot. I still deal with it. It's one of those things that I learned that I'm going to probably tackle for the rest of my life because it's just one of those things you have. But how do you ladies deal with fear?
Well, I know that fear is just temporary emotion, and I can yield to it or not. I have the choice to do what I need to do in spite of being afraid. And there was some quote out there that says courage is doing forward or going forward in spite of fear. And I believe that. Fear is going to always be there. And I know that we can have prayer time and meditation and yoga and do all of these things, but there's still some element of fear and pause and doubt that will seep in subtly sometimes. The better you get at managing and recognizing what makes you afraid, knowing what it looks like, and being intentional about countering that, and no matter what comes up, I'm still going to, move forward in publishing my book, in writing my book, in living my life, in doing whatever it is that I need to do. The more intentional we become, the less fearful and the less fear will trip us up. Because I believe it's a part of life. It's going to be there. And we have to be strong enough and get to the point where it is of no consequence. The fear becomes of no consequence. It becomes no effect on my plan. It becomes no effect on my joy, no effect on my goals, on my vision. For me to have a vulnerable moment so it can jump in, but I'm not giving it that vulnerable moment. I'm going to stay positive and focused regardless of what fear. And the more we practice doing that and being empowered and encouraged and positive and prayerful and in connection with our mindset and our heart space, the less we'll be able to even recognize what makes us fearful or what has an effect on us when fear comes up. It just takes, getting to understand what makes us afraid. Like for instance, I never really wanted to be an author, but when I started working with other people on their chapters, I said, you know what? I've got a story. I have a life that's full of knowledge and experiences, and I bumped my head so many times. I don't want anybody else to go through that, so I want to share my story. And then that little thought entered that says, don't nobody want to hear what you have to say. Your life ain't that great. What if people find out about this? What if, all of those little innuendos that the enemy will tell you to make you put your dream, your vision, your goal on the back burner and forget about it. And I said, well, they find out, it's going to be because I tell them. Nobody's going to blackmail me into shutting my mouth about this. I'm going to do it. And I made up my mind. And every time as I started writing, just remembering some of the things that happened in my life, it was like, man, that really hurt. But I had to stop and really think through it and remember through it, take responsibility for what it was that I did, and then move on through it. It's not easy. It's not fun. It's very uncomfortable, but it grew me. Does that make sense? It grew me as a person, and it grew my perspective, and it was like, I don't care. This book is going to help some freaking body. If it's that one woman who has gone through what I've been through, I need to get this out because it's going to make a difference. And I started envisioning what somebody else's life would look like as a result of reading my book. And it continued to build my momentum. And it was like fear was just of no consequence. But it took me getting there. It wasn't like a snap my fingers and click my heels 3 times automatic thing. But the more you practice disregarding and disrespecting fear, the less effect it will have over you. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes, that
and
definitely makes sense.
That you said that it takes time. I get so tired when people say, "Oh, you get past fear and then you're done with it." Yeah, right.
No, not. No. It keeps popping up. It keeps challenging you. It will try to find a point of weakness in you.
It definitely will. And I think that there's also, it depends on the approach that you take to it. And like you said, you keep on overcoming it. But then I think that there's a space and there's a place, because I grew up for me, fear is very foreign. I didn't grow up in a place or in a household where fear was ignored. The only thing that you fear is your mother and God. That's the place that I grew up. The place that I grew up was every single one of you is talented, beautiful, gifted, and anybody who doesn't see it, they're crazy. So I didn't grow up. Fear is a concept, like when it came to writing and my gifting, fear was it was new until I started meeting other people. I didn't have no such a thing. So that's why I think some people sometimes say, you can get past it and you can get over it because it was never inside of them. And but when you want to route it out, you think about and understand what fear really is, which is it's you imagining a situation and the outcome or the result of your given action. It's you imagining the worst thing is going to happen. But what if you imagine that situation in a different way? As writers, you create whole worlds, whole people, and you imagine their outcomes. And a lot of times we make it favorable for the character we love. Or if you write a specific genre, if you write romance, it has to end happily ever after. And you imagine that. And you imagine it so well that people want to marry the hero. People want to slap the heroine. So why can't you imagine the outcome of your actions being positive and being accepted and not being rejected?
Yes.
I love that. I'm gonna put that down, writing that down. Imagine your actions. I like that. And I love that you were raised be fearless. I think that I wasn't raised to be fearless. And mainly, I guess that comes from my mom. She wasn't raised by her mom. Her mom died when she was 9. So my mom wasn't one of those people who stepped out and did things. And so, she didn't teach us to be like that, to be bold. I got my boldness on my own, I think. But I always try to think about where did my fear start? When did I start? When was I fearless. I don't think I've ever been fearless. Now I feel fearless in my 40s and now in my 50s. But my younger years, no. I think the most fearless thing I ever did was joining the military. I had not a clue.
Oh, boy. Wow.
I left St. Louis at 18. I got on a plane, never been on a plane. I was scared to death. And then, like you said, imagine the man sat beside me, told me to look out the window. He said, if you've never been on a plane, you need to look out the window so you can see what God can do. And I looked out the window, and I was like, it was like a blanket. It looked like a blanket. And I was like, wow, I'm in a cloud. I'm looking through a cloud at the world. And I didn't fear anything in the military and stuff like that. But I think that I let fear slip back in with my doubts of, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, and then you listen to other people and stuff. I changed my life on different things listening to other people. And so I tell my kids that, I try to teach them not to be fearless, to try it. I always say, try it, because at least you can say I tried it. There are many things that I didn't try because I was scared, and so I always tell them, try it. So I'm glad I'm pushing them to not be as fear, the different things that I think about I should have done in high school that I didn't do. So I tell them that you don't get a do-over. So try it, and then see if you don't like it. Even with food, if you don't try it, you can't say, well, I don't like that. Oh, well, how do you know if you've never tried it? And then you can say, oh, that was horrible. So I think that people who do deal with fear should look at themselves, look at their childhood and see, were you raised fearless or were you raised in fear? And it's just about how your parents were raised too. If your parents were raised fearless or in fear, and a lot of people were raised in fear. That's how come I think that this country is the way it is, because we were raised in fear. To fear each other. Instead of loving each other, to think that just because we're different color, we're different nationalities, that I should fear you because you don't speak the language I speak, or and it's horrible, but that's wrong with the country. We weren't taught love. We were taught to fear each other, that I'm better than you and you not better than me. So, all right. So here's my topic that has stopped me for many, many years, being perfect. I thought my book had to be perfect. And so it sat in the closet because it wasn't perfect. How did you deal with being perfect? Your book is never going to be perfect. I tell people that now, but it took me a long time to figure that one out.
Perfection is overrated.
It's overrated. It's an illusion. It's also one of those fear tactics. It's really, perfection is fear in costume. You are pretending that you're waiting for perfection to happen, but you're not releasing it because you're worried about the reception and the work of it. Perfection is the enemy of your progress and your purpose. There's only one that's perfect, and that's God. Since you ain't him, let that go. Do it to the best of your ability. Do it with the best of the tools that you have before you, but it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be a corner that's off, an edge that's off, a word that's off. The next time you read it, you're like, I should have took that sentence out. But get it out and get it done, because you're not going to put out a perfect project. And the longer you wait, I used to tell my students this, who are like sitting down, they're trying to write this essay, and they're like, Miss, just give me a word to start. I need to start a special way. The longer you wait to create a perfect beginning, you'll never reach the perfect ending. And so the longer you're waiting for this perfect book, you're never going to reach that perfect publication, the perfect cover, your perfect audience, that perfect TV show you plan on being on. You're not going to be on it because the book is still in your house trying to be and get perfect.
Yes. Yes. Will you say that again? That is so true. All of it, everything you just said, totally true. perfection is just it's just like procrastinating. I mean, we're waiting, but because we're too afraid to get out there and just do it, and we keep massaging it and shaking it up and rewriting and starting over, and we're just afraid. And might as well just admit it. I'm scared. Now what? Now go on and do it. Put it on out there. I have not read a book yet that I didn't see a missing comma or 2 or 3 periods or a misspelled word. So we have to allow ourselves grace in everything. We're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. And just say, you know what? This is my best. I'm giving my best. And if it's not good enough for so-and-so or that group of people, then so be it. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to be happy with it. I'm going to be proud of it and celebrate. And we won't be so fearful and trying to make everything perfect and every cover perfect and every graphic perfect and every forward or back cover or meme. And, we just won't get caught up in that, because at the end of the day, it's really the message that you're sharing that matters. People don't care really about all that other stuff. It's what is that book going to do for me? How is it going to change my life and help me in my situation or prevent me from, going through challenging situations? It's the message that is what's going to make the difference in people's lives, not how the pretty colors and stuff like that. And so what? You say things with a little bit of ebonics. If that's your voice and that's your personality, then people will relate to that,
Yeah, that fear shows up in different ways. You have to recognize it. Took me a while to realize that my procrastination and being perfect was just my fear of putting it out there, and I still tackle with it, and I have to tell myself, you know what, just do it.
Yeah. Just do it
and get it over with and stop talking about it and do it, Oh, my goodness, this has been a really good podcast for me. I think this was for me. I need to hear everything you ladies were saying tonight so I can finish the book.
Uh-oh. What are you saying, LaShonda?
Stop procrastinating, LaShonda, and put it out there. Moving forward, So thank you so much. Can you please tell me how we can get in touch with you? First, tell us a little bit about your current book, because I would love for our readers to know that you are authors, and tell us about your book, and then how we can get in touch with you. You want to go first, Necie?
Well, I'll go first. My book is Self-Approved, A Guide for Authentic and Purposeful Living, and it's specifically for women. You can go to my webpage. It's selfapproved-thebook.com, or you can follow me on all social media at Necie Black, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all of that, Necie Black. And it has been a tremendous pleasure being a guest on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on here with Necie. I can't wait to connect with her when this is done. But my book, Pursuing Your Passion in a Godly Fashion, is my last release, and it is prayers for creative Christians and entrepreneurs, and it teaches you how to make God the CEO of your business and your endeavors, and it covers 15 different topics that you'll encounter on this road and this journey to living your passion, living on purpose, and it includes using prayer as a strategy to help you navigate and get through what you're going through. And it's all the prayers are modeled after the first prayer in the first book of Nehemiah, because he was a man of passion and he was a man of purpose, and nothing that came up against him stopped him. And he knew how to move with discretion. He was able to rally people. He was able to see the enemy. Why should I come down for you? He knew how to work it. And it all started with that one prayer. He needed permission to go. And before he saw the king, he went to the King of Kings. And after that, there was nothing that could stop him. It wasn't smooth sailing, but he could ride every wave. And we don't always have that, and we don't always have that training and that understanding. And this deals with, in very practical ways, how we can actually use the Bible, use the Holy Spirit, use the wisdom of God to lead us in all of our endeavors. And you can find me, thank you. You can find me at my website, NigeriaLockley.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter at New Nigeria. And you can find me all over the place.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. I really appreciate having you here tonight. I want to thank our listeners for listening to our podcast today. Please feel free to send me an email. Let me know what you think about the podcast. I want to thank our sponsor, Virtual Tea with LaShonda, promotion strategy sessions to help you become the social butterfly you are meant to be. And I want to say thank you, ladies, again for being here. And I will see you all on the next.
Thank you.
Thank you.